I'm sure we've all heard of the Flint, Michigan water crisis, but have we all heard about the effects still in play today? I'm going to guess not, and here's why. You see, back in 2013, the city of Flint, Michigan, and their government decided it was time to switch the city's water provider in an effort to save money. The former water supply was coming from Lake Huron, though they started using water from the Flint River as the transition was happening. Michael Prisby of Michigan's Department of Environmental Quality Office of Drinking Water said, and I quote, "The quality of the water being put out meets all of our drinking water standards, verifying the water was safe to drink." You see, jump to the middle of 2014, and residents start to complain about the quality of the water. They complained about the color of the water, the smell of the water, and the thickness of the water. It's gross to think about, I know. But this soon led to the discovery of bacteria within the water supply. E. coli bacteria and coliform bacteria were found in the water. In their response effort, city officials increased the chlorine levels within the water. However, with that being said, the treatment plant didn't implement the required optimized corrosion control treatment. A failure in doing so led to a series of events as water pipes continued to corrode. The University of Michigan on the Flint campus then began to test the water using drinking fountain samples. And not so shockingly, they detected lead within these samples. After such research was conducted, the city urged residents to not drink the water. Jump to October 1st, 2015, and there was a public health emergency declared. The Department of Health and Human Services confirmed that the University of Michigan's testing was accurate, in which they found high blood lead levels within children of Flint. In 2016, Michigan's Attorney General charged the slate of former officials for their complicity within the disaster. However, all of these cases struggled as Michigan's Supreme Court ruled that prosecutors, quote-unquote, messed up by having a circuit judge act as a one-man grand jury. Following that, lower courts decided to drop the cases. Every appeal to such dismissals failed, over and over again. On November 3rd, 2023, the Michigan Supreme Court decided to decline a hearing over an appeal against Rick Snyder, former governor of Michigan. This essentially ended the entire effort of holding anybody accountable for essentially poisoning the whole entire city. While citizens were blaming the Attorney General, the prosecutors pointed their fingers towards the state Supreme Court. The whole crisis itself has played a huge role on education within the city, significantly impacting young children and their ability to learn. As more and more research comes out, we are continuing to see an increase in poor academic outcomes within these children, mainly young boys. The subject in which we see the biggest decline in performance is math. I mentioned the discovery of lead within the water, which is a very bad situation. Lead exposure is the worst outcome of contaminated water, as it has been linked to a number of cognitive impairments. According to a study from D.C. Bellinger, he states that these impairments include decreased IQ levels, behavioral problems, and learning disabilities. These effects are usually worse in children as their brains are still continuing to develop. Most of the research conducted found an increase in poor testing of those children who are between the ages of 9 and 13. These developing brains are a prime target for the neurotoxic effects of lead. Research shows that students lost the equivalent of 5 months of learning progress, as well as an 8% increase in the amount of students with special needs. On top of that, elevated blood levels nearly doubled from 2.5% to 5%.
A decade after the first initial reports of the crisis came out, and still we see no meaningful improvements or changes being made. The cognitive and neurological impairments on children will affect them for the rest of their lives. Flint's poverty rate in children now sits at about 70%, which is outrageous. Many citizens have essentially been left out for dead, as disaster efforts continue to be insufficient. On top of that, more and more researchers are continuing to find an epidemic in cancer, kidney failure, and liver disease. Learning disabilities, volatile mood swings, which have manifested into crime, and autism are amongst the many problems still occurring today. These citizens don't have free healthcare, whereas other places with similar disasters have gotten so. Hundreds of water supply shipments sit in abandoned buildings as there's a shortage of suppliers, many who have given up as time goes on. In such times of disaster, it's disappointing to see the lack of response. The Flint water crisis and its ongoing issues significantly impacted the lives of residents. The most affected people within the community are also the most vulnerable. It is beyond crucial that we continue to prioritize the academic success of such children as well as their well-being and physical development. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.